Welcome back to Monster in My Closet, the podcast where we shine a light on the professional world's darker corners. I'm Anil Saxena, joined by my co-host, the founder of Medusas, Morgan Hunter. Each episode, we tackle the fears and faux pas that haunt our work lives, with insights, interviews, and a dash of humor, some stupid analogies, and probably swearing. So if you've ever felt like you're navigating a workplace labyrinth, a never-ending approval process, an evil hall of mirrors, or a constantly ending quarter, you're in the right place. Let's confront those monsters together. Are you ready? Let's begin. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Monster in My Closet. So Morgan, this week, are we scared or scary?
We're scary. Off with their heads.
Just makes me think of Alice in Wonderland, right?
Oh, yeah.
There is that. Okay, so in this episode, we are calling Let Them Eat Cake. In the shadows of the workplace, a simple whisper of thank you holds the power to illuminate the darkest corners of disengagement and despair. This week, we dare to discover how those two words can unleash otherworldly levels of productivity and loyalty. So 3 big topics today: the transformative power of thank you in employee engagement and productivity. Second, the disconnect between employees' need for feedback and feedback programs. And third, building a culture of appreciation strategies for leaders. So I think it's important to kind of start things off with a definition of recognition. So when you look it up in the dictionary, there's 2 big ones that come up. So one is to identify someone or something for having encountered them before or again. And then the other is to acknowledge or take notice in some definitive way. So I recognize Morgan is here with me, like that. And then the other one is reward. So a reward is a stimulus, such as food, that is administered to an organism and serves to reinforce a desired response. And the second is something that is given in return for good or evil done or received, or that is offered or given for some service or attainment. Now, the thing is that they're different, right? And one is the act of recognizing something, the other is giving something for someone, but somehow they've been conflated. And we're going to kind of pull those apart a little bit in our conversation today. So Morgan, what are some things that you've kind of experienced with regards to recognition or the lack?
Yeah. So when we were putting this episode together and we ended up doing the employee recognition, Let Them Eat Cake, that title really sums up my frustration because, back in the day during the revolution, when that Let Them Eat Cake was said, not by Marie Antoinette, but it was said, right? Let them eat cake. To me, it really symbolized a huge disconnect between the speaker who said that's knowledge of what's happening and the reality of what's happening, right? And I see that all the time in recognition programs, and people, they put in their employee feedback. I just want to be recognized, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the freaking programs put together in hundreds and hours and big teams, tiger teams, all the teams. Can you just say thank you? Can you just say thank you? And no, I get the gift card, I get the whatever. I'm like, literally, I want to be, to your definition at the beginning of the show, I want to be seen.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be seen. That's all I need. It's great to get a little award or whatever, but I want people to say, I see you, Morgan. Good work. Right? I see you, Anil. Nice job. Right? So I don't understand what the resistance is of corporations to go for the harder solution rather than just instill good habits of giving praise.
Yeah. And how do you think expressing gratitude, particularly saying thank you, impacts engagement and productivity in your experience?
Well, my personal experience, a thank you and praise for me is like like a little crack button. You know, like if someone says thank you, it's like, oh, I get a boost. You know, I get the endorphin thing going, and I'm in it for another round. I'm in it for another round, and go 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 go. So for me, like the more praise I get, harder I work and the more engaged I am. And the more likely I am to also say thank you or give gratitude for someone else's. So I've kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. So that's been my personal experience.
The gift that keeps on giving. I don't know why that makes me laugh. It's funny, right? I don't know. I get all these pictures in my head of like a Russian doll or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Right? But I think thank you is a really powerful tool because you are recognizing that that person did something that deserves reward or deserves to be recognized. And I think to your point, it underlies the culture. It sets the foundation for the culture that you're trying to create because you want to create a culture in which people feel like their good work or just their hard work is going to get recognized, right? I think we've all been in this situation where it's Friday at 4 p.m. and ex-boss Chad calls, says, I need the thing, and we're going to have this meeting on the Monday morning, and we need you to get this thing together. And then, you know, because you're a good hard worker, you do it. You stay all weekend or whatever, and then you turn it in on Monday morning or Sunday night, and then you hear crickets, and you hear nothing because you would
literally
hear the crickets, you would hear nothing. So you hear nothing, and then you come to find out, not by Chad telling you, that the meeting never happened, or they didn't have time for your data, or whatever. And so you feel like, what the fuck? Like I spent all weekend and nothing happened. Now, is that life or death? Are you in Ukraine or in Gaza where you're getting bombed? No, it's not so bad. But it is undermining to how you perceive the value of your work. And so if Chad had just said, hey, thank you so much for staying and doing that work, I really appreciate it. We didn't get a chance to go over it, but I am going to use that data. I will make sure that the next time that I bring that up, and I'm going to let them know that you did that over the weekend. That means a lot. It surprises me that more leaders don't say that, don't do those kinds of things.
Yeah, shame on them. I think there's also thank you. So what can you say, man? They're jerks. Thank you is one way to recognize people. But there are other ways to verbally recognize people that's not the words thank yous. And the ways that I recognize my husband is his great ideas. Yeah, he's an idea guy. I love his ideas. And whenever he has a good idea, I'm like, that's freaking genius, dude. You are a genius. That is brilliant. I'll just go on for like 5 minutes because I can't help myself. But there's things like that too, where you can recognize the quality of a response or an idea that's been brought forth or the execution of something like, hey, Morgan, that presentation you put together is beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, and so it's not always in the form of thank you, right? I think I wouldn't want people to over rotate and not, enjoy the moments as they come. I really encourage people, if you're having a positive thought about someone, emphasis on positive, in your head, you need to let that come out, right? Just say it. Just say it. Like, that was a great presentation. Nice job. Or looks beautiful or whatever.
I agree with you. And I mean, I do rate Cherie says smart things all the time. I always tell her, like, that's really smart. That's a great idea. And I think it engenders that between the two of us. And I think the thing that's interesting is, so I have a new person on the team, and they're starting to say thank you for things. And we like that is a cultural norm that we've put in place right away. And I think the other thing is that this idea of recognition, this idea of thank you, there's gradients of thank you, right? And a few episodes ago, I talked about this guy Earl who was on our team. He was a Jehovah's Witness. He couldn't
Mhm.
accept gifts, and so I
Right.
sent his wife a thank you note. I think it's important as a leader to make sure that you understand and learn how your folks like to be recognized based on the level of effort of an initiative and reward them accordingly, right? So if they write a nice email or do a good presentation, you don't have to give them $1,000. Some people just like, they like to get out early on Friday, or they like candy
Yes.
or whatever, right? And so, but that requires a little bit of work. It's like, I got to get to know my people.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd also say that there are cultural nuances to recognition as well. Or maybe someone is just neurodiverse and doesn't like to be called out, good or bad, in a meeting. That's okay. Text them. Hey, great job. That was really smart. You can still deliver the message if you are in a situation where you don't think the person would appreciate being highlighted in a group. So
Yeah.
get creative. Get creative.
I think that's really smart, and I think it's that we have to make sure that we're doing that across the board, right? Like if there are people who, when you're going to a meeting and you're asking somebody to make a decision, if they're not a on the spot make a decision person, they're a thinker, a soaker. You need to give them a pre-read. You need to. So it's all about like how do you make sure that you're accommodating for the needs of others when you are working with other people. It
Yeah.
just it's kind of being a good person 101. So, in your experience, Morgan, why do you think employee recognition programs fail?
I th- I think I think that the creators of the programs cannot possibly believe that the answer is so simple as to say thank you or nice job or good idea,
Yeah,
right? I think they probably assume naturally that the leaders are already doing these things. And so it's some other problem, a more complex problem.
yeah,
And I think um, to under to unpack that and set the organizations up for success, you have to ask follow-up questions. Recognition is different. Like you said, get to know your employees. What does it mean you're not being recognized? Is it someone took credit for my work, or no one ever said thank you, or blah blah? Like there's 100 things that could make someone feel like they're not being recognized. You got to get into the details to understand what recognition means to the individuals as part of the employee feedback in order to tailor your programs. And maybe you can go around it from a side angle. And in a question like, you completed deliverable, does your manager thank you for your work?
yeah.
Do you get opportunities to present your work in group settings? Do you blah blah? So there's all these ways that you can unpack that and get to targeted recognition programs, but the questions are never in there to get to that level of data. And I think that that's the fundamental reason that the programs fall short and are overly complex in most cases.
Of research that tells us that doing that undermines the actual power of the recognition, right? Like when it's a one size fits all kind of thing, and it undermines the actually the intent that you're trying to give with a recognition or a reward program. And it's a little counterintuitive because oftentimes what happens is they design these programs and there's this overly engineered process to get people nominated, and then there's a
Oh
team
my
to
God.
do the thing to see who gets the most and blah blah, and then you get a bunch of tchotchkes and a crystal ball and dinner with
Oh,
people you don't like.
start peanut buttering. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. We told Anil we liked him last week, so we can't possibly tell Anil we like him again this week.
yeah, because he couldn't have done that good of a job again. I mean, it's that was last week. What have you done for me lately? And I think that there's an opportunity, right? And one of the things that we wanted to talk a little bit about is this idea of what can leaders do? And I think the highlight to me is you have to make sure that you are making it personal, right? And I would say go back to basics, right? There there was a program that we did 100 years ago. We did index cards. I know this sounds like so analog, but I had an index card box and index cards with each team member's name on it, and I wrote down the things that how they liked being recognized based on the level of effort, and it
Damn.
was right there on my desk. And I had like little gift cards and candy, and I don't know, it was like a little treat box, but people would do things, and I could like look at the card and say to myself, I'm going to write that person an email. I'm going to do something like that. And there is such power in being able to do that, that it showcases how much you actually care as a person.
So I know we both have examples of like the best recognition we ever got. So what's your story? What was the best recognition that you got? Most memorable?
Was when I worked for Gallup, and my boss asked me to go to Washington, where it was headquartered, and bring my family. And we were closing big deals and doing cool things, but it was really special because, and I learned after the fact that it was pretty much free, right, for Gallup, because they had tons of stuff, hotel stays and airline miles. But it was so special because they were like, bring Cherie, bring Alex, make it a weekend, stay a little longer. And they knew I was a history buff and that my family time was important to me. It was like, I'm actually getting like, I remember the like hot dog we got in front of the Capitol building, and just how appreciative that they were of us coming, even though they invited us and they paid for it. And it really like set the tone for my whole relationship. I still think fondly of Gallup and my time there, and I left there a long time ago. So
Yeah.
it really has an impact on you, or it had an impact on me.
I'm going to share a story of a gift certificate. And normally I hate gift certificates. I will go off. If you give me a gift certificate, I will punch you. But there was one gift certificate I got, which was my most memorable reward. And I was leaving the company, and everybody knew I loved Coach bags. And so they gave, and I didn't know that they knew. I mean, I just had them, and I, used them. And I was so shocked that, everybody kind of pulled together and got a gift certificate for Coach. Because I mean, like, oh my gosh, you were listening, or you were observing, I feel seen. Again, like, I was there to get that gift certificate, but it was a specific gift certificate aligned to the things that at that time I enjoyed. So one of the things that I was thinking about is in recognition, there's some downstream consequences, Anil, when people don't start getting recognized through like verbal recognition and recognition for their work and all of that other stuff, is when you go long enough as an employee and you don't get recognized, it starts to bleed into comp. So it's like, you're not paying me enough. You can recognize me through restricted stock units. You can recognize me through like these things. So the demands start to get financial pretty quickly if you deprive people of recognition along the way. So, and then that shows up on the employee feedback, and they're like, "Oh, we just need to pay you more." And then you're like, "Well, we're not going to pay you more," and then you're like, "Well, screw you. I'm going to go get another job because you don't pay me enough for this shit.
Well, I mean, I think, it's that whole notion of in any relationship, if you're not acknowledging what's going well, um, it's really hard to stay motivated, right? To be in that relationship, whatever kind of relationship it is, because you're trying to put your best foot forward. And if it's not being acknowledged, then it's hard to really feel like, well, I like being here. It becomes kind of perfunctory, right? Like, I'm just going to come because I get a paycheck. Sheree is the kind of major chef in our house, but I make eggs for her, and it's a dumb little thing, but she always asks me, and she always says thank you, and I love making her eggs. It's I mean, it seems so ridiculous, but it is one of the like little joys I have on the weekend because she's so thankful, and she does so much for me and us. I think it gives me the opportunity to give back a little bit. And I think that that's such an important thing in the work world, that we acknowledge all the little things that people do to make our lives better, easier, faster. There's a young man on the team, young because he's less than 40, and he is so good at automating things and creating easy ways to do stuff. And he does it because he wants his life to be easier, but he makes everybody's life easier because of it. And I thank him profusely all the time, every time he does that, because it makes a difference. Um, he has gotten rewarded because of it, but it he didn't start it because of that, right? He started it because he wanted to make his life easier and our life easier.
Yeah.
And that sense of recognition for good work, it actually turned into a financial recognition and a promotional recognition. But in the beginning, it was just it was just profuse thank you, which is very powerful to drive people and motivate a culture.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the one last thing that I would leave people with about how to and how not to do recognition is what I call like the obituary recognition or the requiem recognition. Yeah, I know you saw that in the show notes, and you're like, Morgan. But I have had the joy of leaving many jobs in my life, and inevitably at the end of the job, people get together and they're like, "Yay, we're gonna miss you!" Blah blah blah, and it's funny. I mean, I love the feedback and I love the praise and I love the recognition. So please don't take anything other than that, away. But there were a few people when I retired from ServiceNow that gave me feedback, and I'm like, wow, I really wish you had said that to me last year. Like, if you'd have let those words come out last year, I might be in a different place right now. I might have felt, more satisfied with my job, or like whatever the case may be. But it's like, what was so special about that comment that you had to reserve it for me leaving the company? Don't do that. Share.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something about there's this feeling that people have sometimes that if they give too much recognition, that somehow people will get a big head, or I don't know. My dad, right, came from a different country and a different generation, and he was not a thank you guy, right? He was not a I love you guy either, but that's a story for another day. But because he's told me that if I say if I give people too much praise, then they'll get complacent. And I always thought, well, that's dumb. I never said that out loud because I was terrified of him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I've heard an argument too that it will lose its meaning.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think Morgan and I are here to say that's not true, right? Now, you don't want to give everybody a trophy. You don't want to give everybody a trophy for coming to work. Like if you come at the designated time to work, or you come to every meeting on time, you don't get a trophy. That's just good work. That's just good operating. But thank you is important, and saying thank you sets a tone for how you're going to operate and the kind of culture that you want to create. All right. So a couple of last things before we wrap up today. So first of all, we wanted to make sure that you knew that if you want to, we ask you to consider donating to the fundraiser for medusas.org. We're building a community to make SaaS more inclusive and all around better for everybody. So we need your help doing that. So in the show notes, you will see a link to donate. We ask you, we beg you to do that if you can. And then the second thing is, please rate, review, and share this podcast, especially if you like it. If you don't like it, I don't know why you're listening. It's almost the end. That seems kind of ridiculous. But we really want your personal recommendation because it means a lot to us and the peeps in your life. So thank you in advance. And we appreciate your time. All right, Morgan.
Yeah. Hey, listen, also, stories and ideas are accepted here. Let us know if you've got ideas.
Yes, please. We love that. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time on Monster in My Closet. Bye. As we wrap up another episode here at Monster in My Closet, we want to thank you, our fearless listeners, for joining us on this journey of exploring what scares us or when we're scary. Professionally, of course. Together, we've ventured deep into the workplace wilderness armed with humor, insights, and a touch of irreverence, and hopefully learned something together along the way. But our journey doesn't end here. Monster in My Closet is proud to be part of medusas.org. Medusas is a membership-driven, non-profit organization serving underrepresented groups, minorities, and individuals with disabilities who are doing business in the software-as-a-service space. We're a community created by SaaS professionals, for SaaS professionals, and even the SaaS curious. Visit medusas.org to discover how you can contribute to a movement that empowers professionals to face their workplace monsters head-on. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your colleagues, and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us shine a light on the monsters lurking in the professional closet, making our community braver, stronger, and a little bit wiser. Until next time, keep challenging the status quo, embrace the journey, and remember, no monster is too big when we face it together. Cheers.